never rests.
Counting careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
Good Tuesday morning to you. It is the Georgia Show here on the Dawgs HQ YouTube channel. Thanks for checking in with us this morning. I'm Jake Roos. He's Rusty Mansell. And we took the weekend off, Rusty, Sunday and Monday to do Memorial Day. And glad we got to celebrate that with the folks we love and to reflect on some all that Memorial Day means. So Thanks to everybody who served. As always, the Georgia Show is presented to you by American Pride Bank. Guys, if you're looking for localized solutions for your banking needs, whether it's small business loans, personal banking, whatever you need to take care of, American Pride Bank is the place to go for that, because you talk to decision makers at every step of the way when you're talking to American Pride Bank. Localized solutions for you. They're in the community, Alpharetta, Athens, online, AmericanPride.bank. Get over, check them out, see how they can help you today, and see what it's like to be talking to a decision maker at every level when you talk to American Pride Bank. They are a member FDIC and an equal opportunity lender. Rusty, it has been a long time coming. We're going to talk about some of these official visits. We'll have a bigger show on that later this week. But some news came out here over the weekend, and I want to dive right into that. And that is Georgia makes the top four for Malachi Lee. And if you're not familiar with Malachi Lee, get familiar. That's what I would say. A guy who the Bulldogs have really kind of seemingly put all their chips in on when it comes to the offensive tackle class. 6'7", 310 pounds. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his high school, but he's from Honolulu. But he's a big guy. Stacy Searles has made the trip out to see him twice at this point. Used all of his visits he could. Malachi Lee took his official visit to Athens for the G-Day game. And, he's going to return for an unofficial visit on that big official visit weekend they've got coming up. I believe the 13th is when that is. So a lot to think about with this one, Rusty. But Georgia makes the top four for Malachi Lee. They are joined by the likes of Texas, Michigan, Alabama, and Georgia. So none of your traditional West Coast teams for a guy like this. No Oregon, no USC. So he's looking pretty heavily SEC focused as well. I'm curious, Rusty, first off, your thoughts as to how they view this guy. I believe you once told me that this guy had a wingspan that measured up with about anybody they'd ever had in.
Couple of things. Good morning, Dylan Brooks and DGD guys. Everybody join in. I will say too, I'm done with this damn rain. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of it. My God, I mean, it's ridiculous. Dylan Brooks brings up something here I want to touch on, where it says, "I bet Searles just hated having to go to Hawaii." So everybody goes, "Yeah, that's a tough assignment." Here's the deal with that: by NCAA rules, you can only be in front of this kid for one day. So you could there's a time frame there. You can only spend so many hours. You can't go out there 4 days and 3 nights and double vacation. I remember talking to James Coley after he went and saw Dylan Gabriel, and I ran into him at like a Nike clinic or something down in Atlanta, and Georgia. That was around the time I believe Justin Fields was leaving. They had gotten in on Dylan Gabriel a little bit late, which is kind of ironic. And he winds up going to Georgia. Had him on OV, if you remember that.
Yep.
He went to Central Florida because they had Scott Frost and those guys that recruited him longer. But I'll tell you this: I remember him talking about how long a trip that was to get out there just to spend like 8 hours with a kid and convince him to take an OV, which he did. But to go out there twice with this deal was not an easy trip. And then Stacy Searles is not a small man. So what I'm getting at is this kid's a priority. That was a lot to go through to go to Hawaii just to spend 8, 12, 10 hours in front of this kid. And guess what? Searles got this kid now. He's coming back on an unofficial visit. He's already visited Georgia on his official. Now he's coming back. So that tells you how much of a priority he is. I think what I was told, he had a 36-inch arm. In relation to that, I think the longest arm that I know of they ever measured in that building was Andrew Thomas at 36.5. So that kind of tells you when you start talking about wingspans and measurements, if that's your cup of tea, then this is the guy that they're in on. They've recruited him heavily, and don't just sit there and go, well, Stacey Searle just want to go to Hawaii. I guarantee you, he didn't want to go back to back like that. He did it because he's recruiting the piss out of this kid. And now he's got him coming back for an unofficial on what could be one of the biggest recruiting weekends. I woke up this morning, Jake, thinking about that weekend. And we're going to talk about all these other weekends. There's going to be some NFL guys in town that weekend. Yeah. That's going to be one of those, oh my goodness. Can't wait to see the social media pictures of that group because you want to hang on to that one for a while. And that's a couple of weeks away. But to get him back with those guys, major targets, and around your quarterback, Jared Curtis, that's going to be a big one, man. Yeah, and Rusty, I feel like it's fair to say that it feels like everything has shifted to Malachi Lee since the Jackson Cantwell miss. I feel like it was high before, and it feels like they took it to another level after. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a guy they recruited. You can't put all your eggs into one basket. But he's a guy that look, if I'd have told you that they were going to, if they could have worked it out and said, hey, you're going to get Jackson Cantwell and Malachi Lee, they'd have been, hell yes, let's do it. Didn't work out that way. So this is a guy they were recruiting us hard. They were recruiting him hard too. I think Jackson Cantwell, with the connections to Georgia, they were able to identify him a lot earlier with his mom and dad. His mom basically living in Athens, training for the Olympics during that time frame. So there was some connection there early. But Malachi Lee is certainly a kid that they have been they've been on a while. And after getting him and his family in town, was that G-Day weekend? I believe it was. Yep. Yeah, getting his family in town for that weekend, kind of meeting them and seeing him in person, I think it ramped up pretty quickly. Yeah, 4-star guy, number 10 tackle by the industry, but it's clear that they like the size. The only hesitation, I'll tell you this, Rusty, that I've had throughout this entire recruitment with Malachi Lee is that Georgia, and this is not just a Georgia-centric problem, it's hard to pull kids from Hawaii. Typically, Hawaiian kids stick with Hawaiian kids. You see the Polynesian guys go hang out where there's other Polynesian guys. This is a bit of an untraditional recruitment in that way. If you would have had Oregon and like Utah on that list, right, you'd been like everybody's playing for second. Right. Well, when you don't see those two schools, and then you don't see USC, he's going to a school typically that you don't see a lot of these kids at. And I know for a fact that Georgia has recruited some poly kids, and one of their sales has been, we want you, if we could get you, like you're just talking about, we can get more here, and you can help recruit because those kids they're tough. They're producing. They're being very good football players. So that would be, a culture type deal that would be a win for Georgia to get some poly players here, get some Hawaiian kids here. And but just as important is you get a hell of a football player and a large human being. Like I said, man, the pineapple pipeline from Hawaii. You got to get that thing going, man. They got some dudes out there. They're quarterbacks too. Quarterbacks too, man. Absolutely. No question. Crazy. No question. Rusty, when we're thinking about this offensive line class as a whole, Malachi Lee, like I said, probably right now, to me, the top tackle when it comes to Georgia's board for this class as they move forward. But there's some other names out there, and it's not just necessarily one of the strongest offensive line classes we've seen in some time, which kind of complicates the waters a little bit too. I'm sure Georgia's happy that they kind of loaded up over the last two classes, and there's another good one coming in 2027, but you can't ever skip this. Obviously, you got one guy in Graham Houston already out of Buford. He's a big body, definitely a great one to have in, one of the top players in the state at the offensive line position. It's down in Georgia, though, largely, and I'll be interested to see if the camp season changes some of that. Maybe you go find a guy like Dennis Uzuchukwu from last year. But a lot of uncertainty, it feels like, at offensive line this year just because of how the national brand shapes up. Well, in-state, too, and I think – You look at a guy like Warren Gaston. You look at all these other guys. It came out the last couple of years. Josh Petty was a kid that was highly recruited last year. There were some kind of headliners as a state, this class is a little bit down at tackle. There's some kids emerging. I think Fletcher Turk is the kid we'll talk about a little bit at Hebron Christian. I know Georgia and Clemson have ramped it up on him. They've offered, both schools now have offered. I think too, if you're looking at Georgia, you got to have a couple tackles this class. You've got to have a couple of tackles. And then you look at this young man who I believe will be, he's going to Clemson next weekend. We got, well, look at here, we got Michael Uni's dad. There we go. So that's why we do these things, because parents come in here and
there
say,
there you go.
We got one.
The first Polynesian. And I thought
let me tell you something.
It was Michael Uni.
Let me tell you something. A big ass human right there, his son. I remember seeing him in spring. I was like, oh my goodness. So thank you for that correction there, Scott, and thank you for following us.
And hey, look, Michael may be the guy that helps kind of sway this.
You know what?
Thing a little bit.
And I'll get to Scott here a little bit with that. Obviously, everybody knows my connection with softball and Lindy Ray, who ended her career this weekend, and enjoyed being a part of her little small chapter. They have a freshman Hawaiian third baseman by I think it's something Mua Williams, I believe. And I'll kill her last name. I'm sorry, first name. Yeah. Really good Hawaiian third baseman. Her family was in town for like a whole week, and they were actually staying with like an Hawaiian family in Athens. So it tells you that, that culture, these people are so, so tight. And I'm sure that Mr. Uni there is going to help recruit Lee when he comes back. So that's great. And thank you for chiming in on that. But you start talking back to the original question.
But I didn't want to be wrong about it.
I couldn't remember that. You know what I mean? I couldn't remember that. I'm getting old and all these things run together. I just remember, them going out to was it Texas, right?
Yes, Copperas Cove.
Texas, Copperas Cove. You're going out to Texas and seeing him, Coach Searles and those guys, and then getting him in that class. So, listen, large humans, man. Texas, Hawaii, wherever they're going to see them. So, but getting back to the original thing, the first this class is a little down. So, and then people that follow this every day know what's coming in 2027. I don't want to deep dive into, but 2027 in the state of Georgia might be as deep as I've ever seen. I'm talking about 6'8", 330 pound, like 5 of them, and and I've got one kid is 6'9.5". So there's a lot going on there. With that. So, this tackle thing is very fascinating. Georgia needs 2 tackles in this class, but, they're staring down the barrel of it's not a deep class around the state, around the country. They've done really good the last 2 classes, in my opinion. They've added some bodies there. So probably facing a little bit of that of, hey, you're deep at certain positions. You got these guys. So, we'll see how it plays out. But the bottom line is, Stacey Searles went to Hawaii twice. I would love to ask him how comfortable those flights were.
I bet.
Yeah, because you go commercial. Those aren't. You're not privated. You know what I mean? You go commercial. That's pretty. Sure, that's a quick turnaround.
The jet for him.
No, they didn't put the old jet on that one. So.
Well, Fletcher Turk, let's talk about this guy, Rusty. I want to hit a couple of the names that we're looking at, maybe potentially moving forward in this class. Turk is a guy who's just kind of come on to the scene out of Hebron Christian and Decula, 6'5", 270 pounds. Not a name that we have heard a lot about up until probably the last month, really. And this is a guy who suddenly, through the spring season, guys got to take some visits, get on campus. And this guy suddenly burst onto the scene. Not a surprise that it happens, but I'm curious what you know about Fletcher Turk.
Well, going back to I don't get paid for my ride skills. Lindy Ray's dad, Mike Davis, is now the offensive coordinator at Hebron Christian. Talking to him last week about some football things and stuff, and they were facing Southwest DeKalb last week. So he calls me. He goes, "Tell me about Ernest Rankins." I was like, "Better have your ass ready to block this kid. It's for real." And, he talked about their O-line at Hebron, defending state champions. He's new there, but he talked about how he's excited about him and how athletic he is. So, you look at these kids with 6'6" frames and offensive line, you start talking about kids that, I hate to use the term late bloomer, but these kids they grow, they stretch out. You look at Monroe Freeland. Monroe Freeland was like 6'5", like 220 first time I ever saw him. But I knew he had so much frame in him and so much length. So you look at Fletcher Turk, and I would be interested to see what he heights and weights, at Clemson and Georgia. officially, but if he's 6'6", 270 right now, I mean, he's going to hold 305 so easy. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the target you look for. You know, if you're 270, you try to think about, can you get to about 300, 305 range? And certainly a 6'6" frame, he can carry that. But, you know, the early reviews, it kind of returns on him. Some guys I know now at Hebron, very athletic kid. And you see why Georgia and Clemson are now kind of in a battle for him. Georgia Tech has offered him. I think Michigan State, all these guys are going to get some visits. So they're not the only two, but right now it seems like those are the two that's getting a lot of buzz around him.
Yeah. And, you know, look, this is Jake Rowe and I talked about this on the previous show. What's interesting to me about offensive line over the last couple of years, you kind of saw this with one Gaston last year, and it's kind of becoming the norm. When I first started in the business, you had weak side D end and strong side D end. And now it's just edge. To me, the disparity between interior and offensive tackle, it's growing thinner, man. We're seeing guys. I mean, Gaston was considered an IOL depending on which rankings you looked at last year. Georgia certainly considers him a tackle. So it seems like there's some of that cross-training over. I don't write off some of these possible interior guys for this class as being potential offensive tackle targets as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to show my age. I remember the NBA had power forwards and centers.
Right.
Now everybody just shoots the damn three, and there's one guy in there rebound. Nobody's setting up down there and got your center on the low post. But yeah, it's certainly I you know, you look at some guys and you go, okay, he's limited by length that he's going to play inside, and that's okay. But you look at guys, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if just take, for example, if Michael Morris was at another school, Michael Morris could play right tackle for somebody.
Right. Yes.
He's gonna play guard at Georgia. He's gonna play guard at Georgia, and long term NFL, his guard is his best, you know, thing. You look at Mr. Rooney's son right here too. You know, this guy can play tackle. This guy can play guard. Just you have that length and an ability there. Where do these guys fit in? Where do they get their minutes at? But I don't look. There's some guys that are limited. You just know they're going to play inside. Sure. But I'm with you. You know, like Graham Houston. This is a kid. It might. You know, his interior rate. This guy might wind up playing right tackle somewhere down the line.
Look at Isaiah Wynn and Jamari Sawyer. You know, I mean,
how about that? How about that move? How about that move by Sam Pittman? Moving. You talking about changing somebody's life? He moved Isaiah Wynn to left tackle, and nobody was like, what in the hell are you doing? And he wound up being a first rounder. Absolutely. They had, and I've heard him say, did they think he was going to be a first rounder? They didn't. They really didn't have a choice at the time.
Right.
Isaiah Wynn was their best option, and they bumped that kid to left tackle, and the rest is history.
I want to get back to some of these names, but I do first want to get to our friends over at Sun Heights. Look, guys, if you're trying to get a great pair of shades, it's Memorial Day. Maybe you were on the lake. Maybe you dropped them in the pond, right? You figured out that you need a new pair of glasses. These are the ones that I wear. I rock the Cottonwoods, and I love these things, man. They got the full mirror on them. You can get them with that full mirror frame. The frames, like I said, one of those warranties on it that is lifetime on those. The polarization's injected. You can get over, check them out. Use code DawgsHQ20 for 20% off your purchase. They got 20% off for their Memorial Day sale too. Free 2 to 4 day delivery on that. You get a 30-day window to try them out. Free and easy returns. The communication with these guys is what sets them apart. The customer service is fantastic. And I say it on this show every week. I would wear Sun Heist even if they did not sponsor this show. Once I had a chance to try them on, man, it really is a game changer. They are a great, great product. And I think everybody here that on the site that's tried them has really loved them.
And I'll say this, thank you for everybody that has supported them. They are extremely happy with the returns, their numbers, their sales, and they have that stuff down to where it's coming from, traffic, referrals. And you guys are, this is you want to talk about some dogs now. This company right here, these are Georgia Bulldogs. So you're supporting, some guys and a husband and wife and family that are doing this out of the Athens area. And I promise you, you see what Taps said. I bought these shades. They are the truth.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. I mean, it is everybody that buys these. A lot of people just buy them because they're supporting us, and I thank you. But what we get back is something like what Taps has said in the comments there. damn, these are nice glasses. And I'm telling you, when they're Jake Rowe approved, they're stamped. That's
Absolutely.
a sunglass man right there. Let me tell you something.
And listen,
That is a
if Jake Rowe can't
sunglass
break them,
guy.
if Jake Rowe can't break
Yes.
them, you can't break
Damn
them
right.
either.
Damn right. Damn right. Damn right.
Sunheist.com, the code DawgsHQ20. Get over, check them out. Like I said, 30 days to try them out. See how you feel about them and see if you like them. And we think you will. Rusty, let's dive back in on a couple more of these offensive line names. One guy that I think has interested everybody throughout this class, certainly since his name popped up, because it popped up simultaneously with that of his brothers. He's probably the highest ranked guy that they're going after at the offensive tackle position. And to me, just the probably one of the most ideal frames you could have. 6'6", 285 pounds, Akini Agboko, number 66 in the country. And I said, for my money, I think Jackson Cantwell, the most polished prospect at the offense. He's probably a plug-and-play guy if you needed him to be. Agboko, to me, very, very high ceiling. I'm not going to say it's higher than Jackson Cantwell, but I think that he has an incredibly high ceiling.
Yeah, I hadn't worked either one of them out, but if you said, "Hey, Georgia's going to end up either one of those," I'm ready to roll. You know what I mean? So, and I think everybody looks at this and goes, "This is a slam dunk that his brothers at Georgia is not." I'm not going to beat around the bush here. This is a all out battle, and in fact, there's schools that think he's not going to end up. He wants to go somewhere else on his own and create his own name. I don't know. I know Georgia's recruited him hard. They've had him on campus so many times with his brother. It's one of those deals where they're very tight. His brother's, I'm sure, trying to get him to come to Georgia, but this is not a slam dunk and he ends up here. There's some other schools that feel really good about him, but I'm strongly would say I know that Georgia has recruited him very hard. Every time he's there, seeing his brother, every time he's on campus as a recruit, they're in on him. So we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, that would be a damn slam dunk, especially in a class like this that's down nationally. Right. That would be a big one there.
Absolutely. The thing that gets me too about this one is Georgia offered pretty much simultaneously with offering the brother. I mean, so they've been on this guy for about 2 years. They knew what this kid was going to be. They knew where this was all headed for him. And so be interesting to see if that pays off. And hey, look, the kid may choose to go somewhere else, but I guarantee you Georgia would say, pretty easy to get down here and see both boys every weekend.
I tell you, telling mom and dad, like, y'all, you sure you won't be on separate planes and going somewhere else? Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. So Agboko, definitely a guy to watch. And then, Rusty, there's another name that really stands out to me. And I'll tell you why. And that is because Desmond Green gets to campus about every single chance he gets and has now for about 2 years. 6'4.5", 350 pounds. It's a big guy. It's a really large man. And Georgia has been a school that has been consistently visited by him. In fact, for him to be from South Carolina, I don't know that he's visited another school as much as he's visited Georgia. And if he has, I would be shocked to know that.
I like my interior offensive lineman to stand in front of a refrigerator and you can't see the refrigerator behind you from all angles. That's all. Like Desmond Green, he is rusty stamped. And this is a guy that obviously he's been over to Georgia a bunch. He's been to every scavenger hunt. He's been to whatever this and that. He has been there a lot. And Stacey Searles has been to South Carolina as much as he possibly could. So this is a guy that, if I had to predict today, I would say Georgia here. This is a guy they've been locked in on. And Georgia has done really well with guys like this, just big, massive road grading, interior guys. And this is a guy that they've locked in on for a while. Yep.
Like you said, man, just every turn, whether it's been a scavenger hunt, whether it's been a junior day, whether it was G Day, this guy makes time for the University of Georgia. And in the NIL era, people don't go with follow the visits as much. Follow the visits with this guy. That's my feel on that one.
Yep.
Guys, get over to and check out our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. We want to recommend Andy Ludicky and the folks over there. If you're looking for a way to diversify your business, to diversify your life, take your life into your own hands, get over, check them out, see how they can help you out. They work with people to help set them up for their franchise and what they want to do in the future. And so it's not just McDonald's, it's not just Subway. There's a ton of businesses out there that operate under the franchise model. And Andy Ludicky and his folks help set folks up with their perfect fit. They're paid by the franchises to bring the people in. So the services are free to you, and all they do is act as the middleman to get you where you want to be, using their expertise and their knowledge. So myperfectfranchise.net, Andy Ludicky and the folks, go over, check them out. A good friend of the show as well. Rusty, we're coming up on it, and this is the start of what is sure to be a wild June. It has been for the last few years, and this year should be no different. We're going to get into some of these visits a little more in depth later in the week, but I did just kind of want to preview some of what's coming into Athens this weekend. Speaking of Desmond Green, because he plans to be there this weekend. Hey, he's wasting no time getting to campus. Once again, man, first weekend of official visits, I know where I want to be. All right. Desmond Green going to be in town. You got Caden Prothrow there, one of the top tight ends in the country. Georgia continues to recruit him, continues to recruit Mark Bowman. They've got Lincoln Keys in the fold. I mean, this is what a ridiculous class. Isaiah Williams, the Ole Miss commit, Florida State commit, Florida commit, whatever you want to call Isaiah Williams. He's been all over the place, but Georgia is in that one too. Justice Fitzpatrick planning to be in town. Kamari Brooks, that's going to be a short drive for him, but an all-important visit. One of my favorite players in this class, Rusty, and Jay Lamar coming to town at the running back spot. Craig Dandridge, a absolute burner on the track and a guy who Georgia is recruiting heavy at that wide receiver position. Brandon Anderson, offensive lineman out of North Cobb. Keelan Jones, Zyke Helton, and then Jordan Smith and Kedrick Golston II, which is really cool to see. Rusty, it's early in the week. There's going to be more coming out on all these trips, and we'll be having notes up all week over at Dawgs HQ. Like I said, the Thursday show will be all about the official visits. But I'm curious, here on Tuesday, what's kind of got your eye with this group?
Just some guys that you like. Kamari Brooks is a guy that they're, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many times, I don't know the record for coming to campus at Georgia. And this guy's only 20 minutes from campus, but this is the guy that's been there. We don't even report every time he's there. Like, this guy's over there all the time. And I'll say this, you know, Alabama is they're on him. Now, this is, if I had to pick Georgia today, I would pick Georgia today. But I'm just telling you, man, Alabama is in there. Christian Robinson, former Georgia Bulldog linebacker who's there, is in on this one hard. So he will go to Georgia this weekend. They turns right back around and goes to Alabama the next weekend. This is a guy that I would say, in my opinion, is the clear target at edge for Georgia. Like, they are locked in on this guy. This is their guy, in my opinion. That's not official, but to me, it seems like this is the guy they're locked in on. Coach Deribe, Coach Schumann, Glenn Schumann, Chidera, Deribe, Ed's outside linebacker coach. They were at his house last week, the last time you could possibly be in front of him. He came to the scavenger hunt as an unofficial visitor. He's coming back. So this is a kid they're locked in on big time there. And this is a big boy battle. Caden Prothrow out of Bowden. This is a 6'6", 220-pound athletic kid. I think he's 3-time state champion at Bowden. And obviously some Alabama ties with his family. And you just look at Caden Prothrow as a guy that I'm this guy can play tight end or wide receiver to me. I'm telling you, you know what I mean? Todd Hartley's recruiting him, but I'm telling you, this guy can play X receiver. I've
got the feeling that's kind of where this is all headed in the end. If they were able to look, you bring him and Mark Bowman in, Caden Prothrow, we appreciate what you can do in line, but we think you can do it out there as well. So I agree with you. Jay Lamar, to me, a guy that they have a chance to sway some momentum with this weekend. Feels like Clemson and Auburn are two schools that have really kind of surged up the list there. I think he's one of the best running backs in this class, Rusty. I love his film. I love when we talk about that term contact balance. Jay Lamar got it in spades, man, when it comes to his game. Craig Dandridge is one of those guys I can't get a feel on, man. It feels like Tennessee is kind of making some moves there right now. But Dandridge, a guy that Georgia's been on for some time, man, and they really like what that guy brings to the fold.
I said it in December. And look, I had a chance to see him. I had a chance to see him at the Georgia League Classic, and like he was just running by dudes. And I had a chance to see him play a couple of games last year at Cambridge. This guy's he's really good. And then James Coley was at his spring game, and he goes off against a really good Walton team. He moved his OV, and I had to go back. I think Jeremy did a piece. He moved his OV from late June until this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think – now, I didn't see – I'll have to go back and double check. I didn't see Clemson on his OV list updated. So I'm not sure if he's going back to Clemson. Tennessee certainly is a school that is involved there with him heavily. Georgia Tech is offered. So this is a kid that I think I know he's a take at Georgia. 100%. I know he's a take. This dude, you know, he reminds me of a lot of Terrence Edwards. He's got that slippery, you know, he's 175 pounds, 6'2", start and stop. Like he's just twitchy as hell, man. Really good kid. Known him now for 2 years, had him at multiple camps. And this is a guy that I know that Georgia would take right now. And he'll be here this weekend. It'll be a big visit.
I'm curious, Rusty, about this Kedrick Golston visit too. What your thoughts on how this kind of stacks up? And because I said this on the board the other day, somebody said, "Oh, you know, it was Thomas Davis II. They offered him kind of here recently," and somebody said, "Oh, you know, we ought to be pushing all in on these guys." My thought with these guys, you better be sure that you're ready to take Kedrick Golston II. You better be sure that you want to take Thomas Davis II, because you don't need those guys walking around mad at their alma mater, man. You want to make sure that they're happy. So to me, this feels like a very interesting visit from Kedrick Golston.
I tell you who he is. That's Chaz Chambliss. I mean, this guy's a wrecking ball, just absolutely just destroy guards. I mean, this guy's, I think he's, Matt Ray from our Tennessee site called me last week, and he was like, man, Tennessee, this guy just kept getting better. And Rodney Garner recruited and coached his dad at Georgia, so that Tennessee has some connections there. He was there this past weekend. Some feel he ends up at Tennessee. The question is the fit. Where does he fit at Georgia? I think he's a 5-tech defensive end. I think this is Chaz Chambliss. I think this guy's physical. This is a guy that's going to take on a lot of stuff up front and just destroy guards and create havoc and chaos. And certainly – Georgia waited a while to offer Thomas Davis Jr., and I guarantee you their message was, we're not offering him until we're ready to take him, and we want to make sure his offer is committable. Glenn Schumann goes up to North Carolina, offers him in person. So we'll see. He is committed to Notre Dame and has been for a while. So we will see how that one plays out. But Kedrick Golston, same thing. I would imagine when they offered him, they're like, okay, you can commit, and they'll have him on campus this weekend.
That would be wild. That would be wild. Guys, look, it's a big week. Get over to Dawgs HQ. Check it all out on the Dog Walk message board. We'll have the notes coming. Like I said, we'll be back with you later this week to talk about all these official visits even more in depth as well. Rusty, anything for the people to preview this week?
Probably won't be a quiet week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. He has spoken. Get over to Dawgs HQ, guys. We'll see you there. Catch us back on the channel probably on Thursday morning. That's probably the plan. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you soon.